What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have a battle of the Hybrid Supershoe, the Hoka Mach X over against the Saucony Kinvara Pro. Let's battle it out. Now, before we dive into the battle between the Mach X and the Kinvara Pro, I wanted to talk a little bit about what is a hybrid super shoe. So many of you guys know in the running community, there are super shoes that have carbon fiber plate. They're typically $250+, very expensive. Well, what Hoka has done and what Saucony have done, they have come out with basically a hybrid. They have bridged the gap between a daily trainer and a race day shoe. Now, what they have done is they have given you really good top tier foam, also given you a carbon fiber plate, but they have not given you the price that you would pay for a super shoe. And that is what is in both of these. Now, the purpose of this video is not to go into an in-depth review on the shoe. If you want a review on the Mach X or the Kinvara Pro, I will tag it somewhere in this video and you can go check out these videos. Now, before we dive into both of these shoes, let's talk about some introductory things, starting with the price point. These shoes both have a price tag of $180. Equal on the board. I appreciate that. Now, regarding the specs on this shoe, for the Hoka Mach X, we have 9.8 ounces, and for the Saucony Kinvara Pro, we have 10.6 ounces. So the Pro is a little bit heavier than the Mach X. Now, regarding the heel-to-toe drop on this, we have a 39 millimeters in the heel, 34 in the forefoot, and over here we have a 42 millimeters in the heel, 34 millimeters in the forefoot for an 8 millimeter drop. We have a higher stack height on the Kinvara Pro and obviously a lighter shoe for the Mach X, yet both have the same price tag of $180. Now that the introductory things are out of the way, let's take a deep dive into these shoes, starting with the tongue. So for the Hoka Mach X, we have a batwing style tongue, very thin, very breathable, no lace lock on the top of the tongue. On the Kinvara Pro, we have a batwing style tongue, a little bit thicker than the Mach X, no lace lock on the tongue, and both of these shoes, may I add, are both semi-gusseted. I do want to show you the differences between the tongue. Here is the batwing style tongue on the Kinvara Pro, and here is its thickness, and then here is the Mach X, batwing style tongue, and here is its thinness. It is a super thin tongue, very thin. Obviously both are semi-gusseted, and we have it on both of the shoes. For me, I thoroughly liked what the Mach X has going on in the tongue. I like that it's not as thick, there's not as much cushion on it, and yet it's just enough to help me get a good lockdown, and it doesn't feel like it's smothering the top of my foot. I felt like that's what the Kinvara Pro tongue did. It's because it was a little bit thicker, it just felt like it made the top of my foot a little bit hot, and because of that, I will go with the Mach X for the tongue. Let's flip it on back to the heel counter on both of these shoes, and we will start with the Kinvara Pro. So as you can see here on the Kinvara Pro, we pretty much just have a basic style heel counter, nothing too fantastic. A little bit more padding here on the Kinvara Pro over against the Mach X, where you'll see there's just not as much padding. It is pretty much just a regular heel counter with limited amount of cushion there. Now, I do want you to see something here. If I hold them up both, we have a double seam here, and we have a single seam here on the Mach X. And these are basically your support systems. So you have a double seam support, single seam support, and honestly, when it comes to that, it just has to do with how much support are you going to get on your heel. Now, obviously, when you look at the Mach X, there was not as much support as the Kinvara Pro. And for this reason, the Kinvara Pro had a more stable heel counter over against the Mach X. Yet, nevertheless, both of them held up very well. I did not have any heel slippage, and everything felt pretty good. For that reason, though, I think it's going to be a draw on the heel counters. Next, let's talk about the uppers on both of these shoes. I will say at the beginning, both of these uppers were really, really good. They're very pliable. One though, however, between the two was more breathable, and I would say more foot hugging when it came to the way it just felt on my foot personally. So we'll start with the Kinvara Pro so you can kind of see the pliability on the Kinvara Pro. We have an engineered mesh material, and it honestly, it feels really good. It is thick though. It is a thick material over against the Mach X, that it is a little bit lighter material. I do want you to be able to see this. Very pliable, very breathable. I notice on my runs, I did have a little hot spots on the Kinvara Pro. With the Mach X, not so much so. I felt like it was a lighter, more breathable material, and yet on the Kinvara Pro, it was more durable. So if you want durability, the Kinvara Pro has you on the durability. But if you want lighter and more breathable and more foot conforming, the Mach X is where it's at. For that reason, I will go with the Mach X for the upper. Next, we move on to the meat and potatoes of these shoes, where the money is at, and that is in the midsole. So I will say on the outset that both of these shoes have a very good midsole, and yet one of them, in my opinion, stands head and shoulders over the other. Let's talk about it. Now, when it comes to the makeup on these midsoles, both of these shoes have very highly resilient foams. We have in the Hoka Mach X, we have the ProFly X foam, and in the Kinvara Pro, we have the Power Run PB foam. It is the bread and butter of the Saucony brand. And both of these foams were very resilient, felt very good. I do want to show you when it comes to the feel on the highly resilient ProFly X foam. If you look right here, you can kind of see just how squishy it is. It is very squishy, very responsive. Now over on the Kinvara Pro, we have on top here the Power Run PB, and man, this stuff is good. Both of these are excellent. I mean, they are absolutely amazing foams. I thoroughly, personally though, like the ProFly X foam. I felt like it was lighter than the Power Run PB, and I felt like it was more responsive and more cushiony. Now, overall responsiveness, and I guess energy return, it did feel like I had a bit of a extra jolt of energy return from the Kinvara Pro, but nevertheless, I felt like it sacrificed cushion. So for that reason, I would pick the ProFly X midsole foam here. Now, with these super foams that we have in both of these shoes, we also have other things working together to make up the recipe for success, and that is both of these shoes have carbon fiber plates. So that is definitely what makes this a hybrid super shoe, is that it has really good foam, but it also has a carbon fiber plate. Now, we have the propulsive P-Bax plate in the Hoka Mach X, and let's just see the little pop we have going on here. I want you to just kind of look at that. It is not too firm, not too poppy, and when we look at the Kinvara Pro, I'm going to be honest with you, it is extremely stiff. It is a stiff carbon fiber plate. And the reason is that we have in the Kinvara Pro, there's a 3/4 length carbon fiber plate that is in this shoe. And I just feel like it's a stronger carbon fiber plate. Now, I want to let you know with my experience in this, I have noticed that I did not have any really like hot spots or feeling like my foot pain or anything in the Mach X, but because of the Kinvara Pro, over time, I just felt like the longer I ran in it, the more I was feeling just pain under my feet due to this 3/4 length carbon fiber plate that we have going on here. It became uncomfortable. The Power Run PB foam felt great, but that carbon fiber plate was just a little bit too stiff for me. And for that reason, I have to go with the Mach X for that reason. I mean, honestly, if it's going to be a daily trainer type of shoe that has the hybrid mix to it, I don't know if I want to run the Kinvara Pro and put all my daily miles in due to the fact that it really kind of did hurt my foot over against the Mach X. It felt really good, no pain in my foot, didn't have my toes feeling numb or anything like that. So for that reason, Mach X for the win. So working together with the midsole, I did also want to talk about something that is normally overlooked, and that is the Sockliners. So in the Kinvara Pro, we have a really nice Sockliner, and in the Mach X, we have a Sockliner, but it is nowhere competing with the Kinvara Pros. I want you to take a look at it on the camera. You can see this thing is just, I mean, it is full of cushion. It is full of cushion. And you feel it when you run. This helps tremendously. And I would challenge you, if you don't think these Sockliners do a really big thing for you, remove it from the shoe and try to run in it. It feels really weird, and speaking from experience. But this Sockliner in the Kinvara Pro was a lot better than the one in the Mach X. The one in the Mach X honestly just feels super cheap. I mean, it is just cheap. It looks good on color, but honestly, it is just not good. It doesn't really compete when it comes to the Kinvara Pro. I wish kind of Hoka would do this and make it as good as the Kinvara. Another thing I did want to talk about is that in the Mach X, we have the early stage meta rocker, and in the Kinvara Pro, we have the speed roll technology. These are supposed to help transition your steps and just help you keep going and to stay in sync with your running. Something that I noticed when it came to the Mach X and the Kinvara Pro is, I've been running in Hoka for years, and the early stage meta rocker is butter. It always works great, feels good, but the speed roll technology on the Kinvara Pro seemed very aggressive to me. So much so that I felt like I was on my toes all the time, that it was rolling me aggressively forward. And I think that may be where I was having pain with that carbon fiber plate and the speed roll technology, just having that pain in the front of my foot. And I think because the speed roll technology in the Kinvara Pro is very aggressive over against the Mach X, that was not aggressive because of the early stage meta rocker. Lastly, let's take a look at the outsoles on both of these shoes. I want you to notice something right here, and it is very clear to see. If you look at the Mach X on this side and you look at the Kinvara Pro on this side, you will see something. Both of these shoes have at least 50 miles in both of them. And if you look at the Mach X, it looks very clean, not as dirty, not as wore out. If you look at the Kinvara Pro, it looks pretty dirty. It looks like it's wearing out decently fast. Both, obviously, if you look in the middle, you can see they both have the exposure of the carbon fiber plate on them. However, the difference between the outsole is that we have a rubberized outsole on the Mach X over against the Kinvara Pro. We do not have any rubberized outsole. You just have pretty much Power Run foam exposed. Over here, you have EVA foam, but it is covered up by Durabrasion rubberized outsole. For that reason, the Kinvara Pro clearly looks like it's wearing out at a higher rate than the Mach X when both of them have about the same exact miles on them. I just want you to be the judge of that as you look and you can see. So I feel like if the Kinvara Pro were to add rubberized outsole, it's going to make the shoe heavy, and it's already heavier anyway for a 10.6 ounce daily trainer, in my opinion. That's a hybrid super shoe. But with the Mach X, you have rubberized outsole, and we still have a lighter weight at 9.8 ounces. And yet, I can probably get a lot more miles out of the Mach X than I could the Kinvara Pro just because I have a rubberized outsole. For that reason, I believe that the Mach X wins in this category of the outsole. In conclusion, both of these shoes are great shoes. They really are. For $180, you have a lot going on in here. You have some highly resilient foam with a Power Run PB. You have the ProFly X foam here. They both have carbon fiber plates. $180 is not that expensive looking at all that is in this shoe. So I do believe that Hoka and Saucony did pretty well when it came down to creating this hybrid super shoe. Yet nevertheless, I do believe that one, again, stands head and shoulders over the other. And I'm going to have to go with the Hoka Mach X for the win. The reason is the shoe overall is lighter. It feels better, it is more breathable, it is not as aggressive on my foot, and I feel like if I wanted to run slow, which I did in it, it felt great. And if I wanted to run fast, it felt great. When I tried to run in the Kinvara Pro, I could run slow, but the slower I went, it still felt like it was very aggressive, and the speed roll technology wanted to keep me on the top of my toes. And that may be good for a little bit, but not all the time, especially being a daily trainer. And for that reason, again, I think the Mach X is a overall better shoe. Guys, thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. If you would do me a big favor, hit that like button, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. I want to hear from you. What do you like about the Mach X, or what do you like about the Kinvara Pro? What do you dislike about them? Let me know in the comments below. Let's keep this conversation going. And as always, guys, aim high.